Hello, everyone. I am Matthew Thomas. This is Super Cool Radio. I have a great guest joining me for this episode. Before I introduce him, a little bit of history. He was part of this band that was originally formed in 1973. They performed with the likes of Iggy Pop, Van Halen, the Ramones, Quiet Riot, and so many more. Plus, they originally recorded King of the Nighttime World in 2018. They regrouped and signed with Golden Robot Records. Please welcome Terry Ray of the Hollywood Stars.
Thank you, Matthew. Good to be here. Thank you, everybody.
Of course, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. When you emailed me and contacted me, I was very surprised. I never really heard anything about the Hollywood Stars and their history, so I very much look forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, it's not unusual. We've sort of been in the background of a lot of stuff over this many years, and it goes back so much. A lot of people that were around in the day are not there anymore, and they're always surprised when we tell them, our history.
Yeah, definitely. And I had to look it up because I always thought, some of the songs were, performed by the original bands, but it always surprised me when stuff doesn't actually work out or line up like that.
Yeah, we've had issues about that. People are, going on the podcast and saying, what version was better, your version or the Kiss version? Of course, there's a million Kiss fans and they love their version. And I love their version too. So it's just another aside that, that we had some part of it. And, that was all getting back to Kim Fowley and those early days, when he was hanging out in Hollywood and putting us together like he did the Runaways, later on. Initially, it started back in the 60s when I met Kim at the Hullabaloo Club. He used to play the Hullabaloo, which was a giant venue in Hollywood. And I had a band called the Palace Guard back then. And he used to hang out with Rodney, and Rodney was the mayor of Sunset Strip. And later on, I got to know him, and he helped me get into the Flamin' Groovies, which was a band I was really into doing some recording with. And we ended up doing some recording with those guys. Love those guys, and he helped me get that whole thing together with them. And then, we did the Shake Some Action, and Since I Heard Your Name at Capitol, which was great being at Capitol since we're such Beatle freaks. But, and then, he said, I love the guys too, but, we're putting a band together called the Hollywood Stars, and maybe you'd be interested in, talking to me about that as well. Now that he got me in the Groovies, he's hyping me to do some other gig, so I'm kind of shocked at that possibility. But I didn't want to move up to San Francisco. I didn't have the money, and it was going to be a big hassle. So I even though I love those guys, I had to say, see you later. I got to try this other thing. And so then he started putting together the band. He already had Scott Ferris, Gary Van Dyke on bass. Scott, he knew from Rodney's Club. And I think Scott was a great lead singer, and he had got arrested for being obnoxious on stage a couple of times. So that made him a perfect guy to do some business with. And I had been playing with Ruben De Fuentes back in those days with a band called Living Flame. And so I said, yeah, let's try Ruben, if we're going to do this thing. Ruben's a great guitar player. So we had bass, drums, and then Mark Anthony came on, which was a guy that was writing a lot of material with Kim at the time. And so we got together and started writing these songs and knocking it out. And he sort of would stand in the background and say, play a little bit more like Keith Richards over here, or be a little bit like Deep Purple over there, and he would just give his ideas of what he wanted us to sound like in each song that we did. And but it was great having him around, just great as an inspiration. And he got us a gig at SCR, which was Studio Instrument Rentals at the time. So we would play there at Studio Instrument Rentals and invite people to come off the Strip. Back in those days, there was a huge music scene, and people would just walk up and down the Strip, believe it or not. And they would come, and they would have posters on the telephone poles, and they'd see, hey, Hollywood Stars playing at SCR, and they'd come see us. No internet. So it was just word of mouth. And the labels came, the PR people came, and we eventually got signed from that. that's a long story just to get to that point.
Yeah, it was. I did read something interesting, and I want to get your take on it. Was the Hollywood Stars a West Coast answer to the New York Dolls?
Only in the respect, we weren't trying to be the New York Dolls. It's just that the New York had their band using their city. We wanted to have our band naming our city. And it wasn't like we were trying to be them or any kind of answer to them. It was just sort of a similar concept where we were the Hollywood band because we were all Hollywood guys, you know, from the streets playing the clubs that we've been playing for years. And, you know, I was the go-to drummer from a lot of years back, starting in the middle 60s, played a lot of different bands, a lot of different projects. So it was natural that I would end up playing this gig. I don't know. But, yeah, I was not trying to be the New York Dolls or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering about that because I saw that. I read that a few different places.
That's the same thing they print every article.
I got you on that.
Yeah, it was just that Kim had the idea of, you know, naming the band Hollywood Stars and using that as sort of an idea concept to push on the streets.
Yeah, I know. You know, as I said, I was reading up on you. I was very fascinated. So you guys were really like, I'm trying to think of a good one. Not dominated, but like really in the LA scene, the Hollywood scene. I know you've opened for, as I said, many either opened or even headlined with many bands like Van Halen, Quiet Riot, the Ramones, all of that. So how was it like performing with them?
Oh yeah, I mean, we even had the fortunate time we were playing with bands that were, you know, signed and have records, and we didn't even have a record out at the time, and yet they were opening for us because we had great management. We had signed with Pacific Presentations, which was a concert promotion group that, you know, that booked all the big stadiums, the Santa Monica Civic, you know, Long Beach Auditorium, and they would say, hey, do us a favor here, and we'll do you a favor there, kind of thing. And so we would open. They would open. They would have the Tubes open for us. You know, when Tubes has been around for a while already. We even had Journey open for us. You know, which was, what the heck is that? You know, it was the original Journey without Perry, but still, it was Journey, and had a lot of major players in that band. So yeah, we had a lot of great gigs. Especially loved playing with the Ramones and stuff like that because I loved the Ramones back then, and those guys were such nutcases. You know, it was great to see them out there, and people at the time were not accepting them when they first came out. You know, they said, "This has got to be a hype. You know, this is not real." And then they became classic. You know, before I knew it, they were like the only punk band that was really doing anything. But yeah, I love those guys. And they would come back and say hello, you know, just be themselves. I had been living next to the guys in the Stooges around that time, so I knew Iggy would come by, and everybody that was in the Hollywood scene would come by and see the Ramones, and you get to see those guys too. So it was always fun to see them. I had some pictures taken of me with the San Diego Chicken, which was a great shot, you know. You never knew who was going to show up backstage.
So the San Diego Chicken showed up.
Yeah, we played San Diego and at the college there, and there was this giant chicken. He was kind of controversial at the time because he would get in fights with people. He was pretty wacky guy for to be your main sort of image for the groups that were out there. But yeah, for a sports band, it was just go, what the heck? Anyway, yeah, it was great. Those were some great times. And we, you know, once we had the fortune to get in the studio. We had different people coming by seeing us there too. We did Roses and Rainbows, you know, so we had some of the guys from Three Dog Night show up, see what we were doing with their song, you know. And so it was, so that first album was meant to be, you know, all the songs that Kim and Mark and some of the Mars Bonfire stuff. I don't know if you know Mars Bonfire.
No, I'm not very.
He wrote some of the stuff for Steppenwolf, some of their hits. Okay. Born to Be Wild, some of that stuff.
Okay.
So Kim knew Mars from that. So Mars wrote a couple of songs for us, so we did those. Supermen Are Always Gentlemen was one of those.
Okay.
Tough guys never show emotion. Yeah. One of those. So he always had these weird concepts, like like he always did. So we did those songs, and everything was going great. We were at the record plant, and they had Stevie Wonder was there, the James Gang were there, just everybody. Jimmy Keltner's fan club was there. Jimmy Keltner would have John Lennon and all these other heavy duty cats come in, and they would just record. They just leave the recorder on and just jam, And so he had what they call the fan club, that was recording all the time there, it seemed like. And, Jimmy Page and B.B. Buell would show up and go in the jacuzzi, and, it was a wild scene.
Wait, there's a jacuzzi there?
Yeah. The record plant was like a social place to be, to hang out while you weren't recording. And, you never knew what was going to happen. It was pretty nutty there too. Get out there and clean that jacuzzi, okay, please, because you never know what's going to happen out there. so yeah, we had fun there. But then the next thing it was like, we thought everything was great, and we were under budget, and the songs were coming along pretty well. They didn't want to have Kim Fowley in the studio for some odd reason, even though Kim got us the deal. They didn't want Kim in the studio. I didn't know it at the time. That's why we didn't see him during that period. We had Bill Szymczyk and Alan Blazek, who had done Joe Walsh and the James Gang and a bunch of different bands. So a big deal producer, and his engineer, Alan Blazek, was working with us. So we were doing the basic tracks with Alan, and then Bill comes in at the last minute and does all his magic and makes the song unbelievable after that, right? But we never got a chance to make it unbelievable. But we did get the basic tracks in with Alan, and he's a great engineer. So we got the basic tracks, and all of a sudden it's like, the whole thing just fell apart. So what do you mean, So yeah, you guys, we're having a problem. Columbia is going through some major changes. And so everybody on the West Coast has been fired. All the West Coast bands that just got signed are losing their contracts, and everything's being dropped. So we just picked the wrong label. Of all labels to pick, we had all these labels trying to get us to sign with them, and we picked Columbia. And then within a few months, they were making major changes with the company. They had the big payola scandal back then, I don't remember. And people were getting money for this and that, and everything was different. Everything changed all of a sudden. And so we didn't have any management. We didn't have any... everybody just sort of turned and ran with all the lawsuits that were flying left and right back then. So Ruben and I were playing with Blue Cheer for a while, and he played a gig with Steppenwolf. So we were took about a year off playing with other bands, recording with those guys. And then Mark came to us and said, listen, we're gonna try to put the band back together. Because during that year when we were just playing with our bands, Kim had this great demo of all our songs, and he was out shopping it around saying, here's a song for Bachman Turner. Maybe you don't want to do it. He ended up stealing the riff of Escape, and we had to sue him to get that money. But so they did moving down the line of one of those songs that they did. And he also got, everybody was interested. King of the Nighttime World was one of the major ones that Kiss loved to hear. And they took a lot of the stuff that we had in our original arrangement, they took it and made it into a different sort of thing. And they changed the feel of the riff. They changed some of the lyric. Alice did the same thing on Escape. He changed some of the lyrics, and then it became his version versus our version. And so with that, they both came out. They had on the Welcome to My Nightmare album and Destroyer album. So all of a sudden we had a little bit of clout in the record business again, because major groups were doing our songs. It wasn't like they're taking a giant chance with us or something. So next thing you know, we were talking to people at Arista. We were playing the Starwood a lot. They came out and saw us at the Starwood. And we got signed with Arista. Clive Davis signed us personally and made a big deal about it and everything. And but the way he sees this, and again, he got some other producer. During that time, we did a demo tape with Neil Merriweather from the Space Rangers. So and that eventually became the Sound City album. But that was our demo tape, and they didn't want to use Neil, and they didn't want to use our tapes. They wanted to start all over again. They had their guy, which was Harry Maslin, who had just finished doing David Bowie. So we thought, wow, this guy's great. Love the bass and drum sound of Bowie stuff, right? Well, it wasn't so great. And, we started playing, and Mark wanted to sort of rearrange the things, which Harry didn't really like the idea of standing around while he figures out the riff by playing it over and over again, to the new riff, whatever it's going to be, So there became sort of a tense sort of feeling in the studio, and it didn't go well. He had this idea of bringing in orchestration on all the songs. So, we'd come to the studio and there'd be a whole orchestra there. What's all this about, Or you'd have, Nicky Hopkins playing piano, the guy from the Stones, who would, a great piano player, but, we weren't expecting, we don't have a piano player. So it really wasn't our sound, And between the cellos and the violins and the piano, it became a very lightweight album, which was our first album.
Oh, yeah, the violin, nice.
Yeah, so that one came out. It had a nice sophisticated sound, but it wasn't us, and we weren't really happy with it.
Yeah, for you guys, it seems like the Hollywood Stars are like straightforward rock and roll. Like that's what I think of when I listen to the Hollywood Stars.
Yeah, it was a rock and roll. We had a lot of different influences. All of us, we're Beatle fans, but we'd had many different influences over the years. So we tried to bring that to all of it. And then we had the difference of these different writers that were throwing stuff at us on the lyrical side to come up with stuff that made it interesting. So we had a lot of challenges, which was great. And but then every time you have a producer that's really not into the band or doesn't really know you that well, it can change the whole thing. So that's one thing we learned. Stay to your guns. If you have a producer, if you have a sound, stick with it. Don't give him up for the guy that they want to use. Stick with your initial plan is usually the best.
Yeah, because it's more true to you. It's like it's the music you guys want to make, not like someone, it's not the idea that someone else has for you guys. It's like, this is what we want to do.
Yeah, exactly. But these guys have their own feeling, especially record execs. They see you as one thing, and we were always trying to be rockers and trying to be a little bit heavier, a little bit raunchy or whatever, and they wanted something like Bread or something really smooth and watered down, And we weren't playing that kind of a sophisticated track that we could throw violins on it and stuff. It's like, would you put violins on a Ramones track? No. I mean,
it's just interesting though.
Yeah, might be
a funny idea.
Yeah, so they have their ideas, but it kind of messed us up. We went on the road with the Kinks. And that was neat. We did the West Coast side and loved doing that with those guys because, if there was a band that we could play with, would definitely be the Kinks with their kind of sophisticated songs that they had and the raunchy stuff that they had. That's one band that got to do it all, because they had so many different things that they did. So I loved doing that side. But then we came back and that was the end of that. I mean, we sort of folded after that.
And so that was, I believe, 1978 was like the last kind of.
Yes, that was the last. And then we were trying to think about what we could do when we came back together in 2015. We made a video of King of the Nighttime World that we put on YouTube just for fun. We had the idea of putting the original guys together. Mark, unfortunately, had passed away. So in the meantime, we didn't have a Mark Anthony anymore. But we had four of us at the time four original guys that wanted to do it. So we did a video. And then later on, it was kind of funny. I was listening to a podcast. It's called Pure Pop UK, with Robin Wills. Was the guy that was in the Barracudas, and he had a lot of attachments to the groovies and stuff. So I listened to him, and one day when somebody was talking about the there's a lot of different versions of Shake Some Action. And so they were saying, yeah, I like the demo version, that it had Nim in it, Nim was the original drummer. And so I type in, no, I think that was Terry Ray that played on that track. So he goes, oh yeah, that's right. Terry Ray from the Hollywood Stars. Thank you. And I go, yeah, thank you. No problem, Terry. And he goes, oh, is this Terry? And he goes, I said, yeah. And he goes, hey, that's great. First thing he asked me is, you guys have any tapes that you never released? And I said, well, yeah, we do. And that started a whole bunch of things happening from that point. We ended up getting the old tapes that we had, and then we put this together. Shine Like a Radio album. Can you see that? I don't know. It's got a reflection. Anyway, Shine Like a Radio came out.
Yep.
And that was a exclusive release, only 1,000 copies. But that's got the whole story, and it's a fold out. It's really kind of a neat thing they put together for us. And that's what label was that on? That was on Last Summer Records. But anyway, so we've been playing since then, and trying to keep it together. It's hard. It's not the same as it used to be. Obviously, we've been going through changes, and we're trying different bass players. John shares with us now, and John was with the original band that Ruben and I played with back in the day. So that was neat to be playing with John again. And so we're out there. We got signed by Golden Robot, which was really excellent. Mark Alexander, the CEO there, great guy. And so, we put out some of the stuff that you played. The Bottom was the first one. We did a live on the Sunset Strip album, which was just sort of a live gig that we did, because we didn't have any material really yet for him to release. So we had the live. Let me show you that one. I'm doing all the promotion. Live on the Sunset Strip album CD came out.
Very nice.
And yeah, I got it all right here.
Yeah,
it's like a commercial or something, right?
So, that's what an interview is, kind of.
So that was sort of a different kind of a thing. I mean, the fact that you could play a Hollywood Star song on your program, because listening to the stuff that you play is such heavy stuff that the Hollywood Stars really didn't play that kind of stuff back in the day. But recently we've been moving in that direction, and I kind of like it.
You guys, I like to describe you. I think I said this in my show. It's like rock and roll with a bite. Like it has a rock and roll feel to it, but there's an extra edge and extra bite to it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we appreciate that. Of course, he's playing that kind of guitar for a while, and he really wanted to get a song out there that he could wail.
Oh yeah, and I know definitely listen to the Bottom. I really enjoyed it. It's got a groove to it, like with that guitar riff and everything. It's got such a groove to it that I was like, I have to listen to this over and over for a while just to really experience it, because it's good.
It's so funny because that song came out of a jam that we had recorded. I had been in this band. I've been in so many bands, right? This is a band called The Jam, Jamme, back in '68, and Don 80 was in that band. So Don 80, after that band broke up a long time after that, was living up in Laurel Canyon. And I went up there and started jamming with him, and he would record all this stuff. So I was listening to some of the jams that we had done back then, because we were looking to come out with new material. And here's the song that had the initial riff from The Bottom in it. Down, 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 and then there was the drum breaks and a lot of cymbal rolls and the rolls coming back into the verse, and all that stuff was there. And we're going, this stuff's too cool. We gotta see what we can do with this. So I gave it to Scott, and Scott put some lyrics to it, and it had that ba 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 ba. That same riff was in there, and so it gave us sort of an edge to work with. And it came out really great. I really loved it, and it was a different for us to be going in that direction. And I think we're looking for more of that stuff now. Oh
yeah, I really enjoy it, as I just said. But also, I know that for you guys, there's another single in the works entitled "Will the Lights Go On Again." How was it like writing and recording this new material for the Hollywood Stars?
Yeah, well, we've been doing it at Kid and Robot Records, a recording studio, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, you know, just laying down the tracks, we were surprised that we were able to go in the studio and do like 3 basic tracks in a day, something like that, because we really had been playing a lot, rehearsing a lot. So you get in there and it just grooves, and you're just going, all right, let's go on to the next one, you know, because we're just trying to get a good solid bass drum track, and we add to that later on. And so yeah, we were surprised at how well it went, and that rehearsing all paid off right there, you know, because you know you don't have a lot of time to spend in the studio if unless you got a huge budget, you know, which we're paying for ourselves this time around. It's a little bit different than $1 million contract that everybody else takes care of us. This is more homegrown stuff this time around.
Yeah,
so, but we're enjoying it.
Watching the clock when you're recording.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, when the Lights Go On Again was another one from the early days. It was really initially the concept came from the '77 blackout that happened across the country, where they had pictures of the New York skyline with no lights on it. And it was really bizarre that our whole electrical system could go down by some mistakes that happened, and the grid just went down. So we wrote the song about that initially. But then during the time that the war started in Ukraine, I was always hearing these guys saying, we don't know, but we don't even know when the lights are going to go back on. When the war first started, they were worried about just the lights, and not to mention everybody getting killed. But they were worried about just basic stuff. Are we going to eat? We're going to have lighting. So they started talking about the lighting again, and we're going to have power. We're going to get power from. And so this whole thing comes full circle because we had already been talking about when the lights go on again, and all of a sudden it's like a timely thing. And then you still have to worry about the power here. That's something that people are concerned about. So yeah, let's do that one. And we sort of revamped it and updated the lyrics. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that one too. I hope you like that one.
I was really digging it. What I really liked was the guitar solos in there, because to me they're just the whole style and the sound to it were very unique, and I was like, I want to listen to more of this. It's like it makes you want to listen to more Hollywood Stars, like when you listen to the bottom and Will the Lights Go On Again.
Excellent. I want to hear that. That's for sure.
That's good. And I really like that. It had meaning when you guys were first working on it, and then now so many years later, it still has meaning, but in a different way. And,
yeah, people will take it, for what it is now. I think for the most part, they probably weren't around for the '77 thing. Only us dinosaurs were around for that. But
a little bit before my time.
Yeah, but yeah, and I like the groove that it lays down, and of course, again, we were able to let loose of our Ruben. He's always back there. Let's go. So he got a chance to really riff on that one, and I like you said, I just love to hear that. Get a little blasted, put on your headphones, and go for it. Now, there you go.
Exactly, and that's what I really like about you guys. Is like, it's just some really good rock and roll music, and nowadays, and I still like music, with like they had electronics and all that stuff, but it's like sometimes I just want to listen to some really good rock and roll, and that's what I get from the Hollywood Stars.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. I mean, it's an honest rock and roll band from the '70s. We're playing it more or less the same. We're still doing the same concept as we did back then, in essence, of the way we play, and the way we want to hear it on stage is like you're hearing it on the record. And I think people who come to see us kind of are liking that. It's kind of different. It's not high tech. It's not so sophisticated that you don't understand what's going on. It's just raw rock and roll kind of drive. And some people are missing that a little bit, I think.
And I honestly didn't realize I was missing it until kind of recently. I saw Wolfgang Van Halen, his band Mammoth, live, and they do everything live. Like everything you hear, they can produce live, without any backing tracks or electronics or anything. It's just them playing music.
Yeah.
And when I saw them live, I was like, I want to listen to more music like this, like bands that can do it live, but it matches what they did in the studio.
Well, hopefully that'll get people going in our direction. And once because people don't know what the Hollywood Stars are, they probably think it's a glamour band or something. It's not what it used to be. We used to be running up and down the strip with 4-inch platform shoes, not so much anymore. We got our Birkenstocks out there or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that's really anything that made it past the 80s, I think, with the platform shoes.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You go home after you've been out all night to run up and down the strip, and you go home and you take your platforms off, and you feel like a midget. It's like, geez, am I really just 5'11"? I thought I was 6'4",
And the hair, you get a few inches with the hair as well. So.
Oh yeah, the big hair. A lot of big hair bands back then.
But interesting question for you. So when we were talking about 78, the Hollywood Stars kind of they dissolved. Was it ever really either in your mind or planned to like ever get back together?
Not initially, because we were sort of burnt out on each other at that point. So it was like, okay, we gave it a shot. If we had the right opportunities, maybe again. We saw Mark a few times. He'd come up and talk about playing this or playing that. Would you want to play with him and stuff? But nobody really had the energy to do it again, because we spent so many years doing that, and wanted to take a break. Took a break from music in general. I ended up working at the Whiskey A Go-Go myself, because I knew those guys from playing there. And when you have a drummer that's out of work, 1 minute you're up here and the next minute you're down here, you're looking for another 4 guys to jam with and try to get a record deal and start all over again, which I don't know how many times you can do that, but it's really, even doing it once is amazing. If you do it 3 or 4 times, you're like, okay, let's take a break. Because there's always some reason that the band breaks up. Mark thought he was going to be a solo artist, so there was always something. But yeah, the Whiskey, I ended up working security there at the Whiskey, and because I knew Rocky at the door, and so without any skills, you have to do whatever you can to stay alive. I think my apartment in Hollywood was $99 a month at the time. $99 a month for an apartment.
Wow,
I was barely pretty good. I was barely getting by with the money making at the Whiskey, but it was enough to keep me alive. So I was looking for other bands, and I did join other bands during that period. That played the Whiskey and played Madam Wong's and Club 88. There was a bunch of cool clubs during the 80s that we played. The Mask was more of a punk thing, but we were, we're around for that. And so I was able to, but being around music, I was able to see some of the best bands in the world come through the Whiskey. I mean, seeing the Police play there live, unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
In the 60s, I'd seen the Cream play there live. So, I mean, but to be back, in the 80s or the late 70s and see the Police, see Oingo Boingo, was a Mystic Nicer than Oingo Boingo, and Blondie, and, all the punk bands that came through, but, and there was all the hair metal bands too that were playing. And Van Halen came out of nowhere with their album, which, we had played with Van Halen a couple of times at the Starwood, and they were doing mainly cover songs. So I didn't really even think anything about Van Halen at the time. I knew Eddie was good, but I didn't think that they were a big deal. But the production made all the difference. They had the right producer. And of course they were playing great at the time too. So they had, their album came out and it was like just blowing everybody's mind. It was just so beautiful. And we would play it in the Whiskey full volume. We get to work there and they were playing bum, 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 that groove, and it was so cool. So that really inspired a lot of metal bands, and saw that whole thing happen too. So, it it was really great to be there. If I wasn't going to be playing, at least I was seeing a lot of major acts come through and see what they were doing live. And so don't regret that at all.
Yeah, definitely. I know I just talked with a band who played the Whiskey a Go-Go. I don't know if you're familiar with Band Inc. They've played the Whiskey a few times in the last couple months, and we were just talking about how like legendary a venue it is that so many great bands played there from, and it's still a staple. Like it is still a destination venue for almost any band who wants to to really perform at a legendary venue. Whiskey a Go-Go is that venue.
Oh yeah, and there's not a lot of that stuff left. So everybody wants to go there and be that thing that everybody calls classic. Being a classic situation from the Cream all the way up to now. I mean, unbelievable bands have been coming through there forever, and so there's not no other place you can go that has that history. With the Doors playing there, and a lot of big bands playing there that you wouldn't even know about, that were always around and playing the Strip, that maybe they didn't make it, but they were big bands playing around during the time. So yeah, what a great place to be. And after that, I just started working different gigs. When they closed down the Whiskey, I had went on unemployment, and they said, "Well, what were you doing?" I thought, "Well, I don't know. I was doing the door. I was tossing people out that were bringing alcohol in, working the backstage." And they said, "Well, you were a security guard." I said, "Okay, whatever you say, I'm a security guard."
Sure, yes.
So then they got me a job working security. So next thing you know, I was at 103rd and Avalon, which if you don't know that area, it's a kind of rough area. And I had no experience, and I'm standing out there at a Thrifty's parking lot with the Crips on this side and the Bloods on this side. And it was it was a pretty wild experience for myself, being in music and kind of being away from the realities of the world, to see that kind of stuff. And of course, then we got into something. I just sort of stayed into that. I ended up selling security for a while and being involved in security designs, commercial and residential stuff, until Scott came along and said, "Let's do this thing. Let's put this band back together again for fun." And so that's why we're here. We're out of that scene and back into the music.
That's right, and still rock and rolling.
Rock and roll.
Hey, it's all about the rock and roll.
That's right, man. Right, baby.
So for Golden Robot, did you approach them or did they approach you?
It was a little both. I think we were both, we were checking out all the labels at the time. I think what happened was that, I think it was Mark's son, Jagger, I think it was, that had heard of the band. And when they were running some of the names by them of possibilities to sign for the label, Jagger sort of said, "Hey, these guys, you got to sign these guys. Everybody knows these guys." And he knew our past. So all of a sudden it was like, we got this spokesman for us, which was beautiful. And so he checked us out, and it went from there. Yeah, so it was a mutual thing. Most of the labels that we talked to, because of COVID, were saying, the music scene's over. Forget about it. We're not signing anybody. So we got a cold shoulder from a lot of people that were convinced that everything was over permanently, and that they weren't going to be signing anybody ever. That's how scared they were, because there wasn't going to be anybody playing. There wasn't going to be anybody recording. There was going to be no interviews. There's going to be no radio stations. Everything was stopped. So nobody knew what was going to happen. So it scared a lot of people off. So we appreciate the fact that Golden Robot was there and said, "Yeah, we're ready for this." And they just kept right on rolling like there was no problem. And that really made a big difference for us.
And I really, checking out Golden Robot, I first heard of them because I don't know if you're familiar with the Wild Street. I interviewed them last year, and they signed with Golden Robot. So I was really checking out the roster and everything, for the last couple months. And, it's very impressive just, who the bands they have, and just like that they actually care about the bands they have. They give the promotion they need, and the music assistance with everything. So, they are definitely a really great label.
Yeah, and they've got their sort of thing together. They sort of just plug in the bands into their machine. Once they sign somebody, they just say, okay, this is our band, and it goes out to different promotional people, and it goes out to different stores. We can get there, and it automatically gets on all the platforms that you want to hear it. And so that's what you want. You want something that's already organized for you and can just plug it in and they do a little bit of an interview with you, and they can send that interview out to people that are interested in the band, and it may lead to bookings or other things that might come along. So yeah, it's been great to have all of that already set up ahead of time.
Yeah, they got a really great support system, and as I said, really great bands, signed with them. So yeah, no, they're doing a lot of great things for Golden Robot is.
Yeah, I heard they were getting into martial arts and all kinds of different things.
I know they have a race team. They have a race car team. I do know that.
Yeah, well, Mark's so into his fast car, So yeah, that makes sense. But that I forget who they were pushing, but yeah, some of the MMA people they're pushing too. So they have their entertainment segment too that they're pushing, that gets people out on Instagram and Facebook and get people to know who they're pushing, And as long as they're winning,
exactly.
They love them.
And MMA, UFC, all that stuff. It's very popular right now, especially with everything.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not surprised. Branching out into other profitable areas. I think it's a very smart idea.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so too. Make them sort of an entertainment sort of conglomerate, and everybody knows the name because they've seen them in this venue or that venue. So it helps everybody, I think.
Yeah, they got a really good name and reputation. I think that really helps, obviously, branch out and other things. So I gotta check that out because I'm a fan of MMA. So I'm gonna see what they're doing.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I took Kempo during that time I was working security. I took Kempo and met Jeff Speakman. Great martial artist for Kempo, and The Perfect Weapon. You see The Perfect Weapon?
I know. I have.
You got to check out The Perfect Weapon, man. You got to see that.
I'm gonna add that to my list. I definitely will check that out.
Okay, yeah, it's got some of the best fight scenes you'll ever see. I mean, other than Bruce Lee, he is really something else.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know. I'm familiar with him. I know I've heard the name, but yeah, him and like Bruce are very talented. Just making I know it's still like a movie. It's supposed to it doesn't have to be super real, but they make it like as possible.
Yeah, I mean, they're so talented and they're so quick that they can make these things. Even though I wouldn't want to be the guy receiving end on some of those things, even though they're supposedly holding back, because you get whacked pretty hard. I mean, I got a broken rib sparring with somebody when I was doing Kempo, because the people are bigger than you are and they're trying different things. And they're trying to say, well, I want to try this method to see if I can sort of hide the fact that I'm going to throw a kick by throwing something in your face, and then I'll throw the kick. So, but they may not hold back on that kick so much because there's a lot of speed behind it. The next thing you know, you're getting whacked. So I'm thinking, well, that probably happened more than once filming these movies where it's got these heavy fight scenes. These guys probably get whacked around pretty good.
Oh, definitely. That's why, I got a lot of respect for the stunt man and the stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
Everything up that no one gets. Obviously, no one gets killed, that no one gets severely injured. Bumps and bruises, broken ribs, stuff like that does happen. But for everyone to at least go home, in one piece, I think that takes a lot to plan.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I know there's a story. If you're familiar with Bob Barker, the former host of Price is Right.
Yeah.
He was sparring with Chuck Norris and one of his brothers, and Chuck did a kick, to spar with Bob Barker, and he broke a rib on one side, and then his brother was like, I want to try it, so he kicked Bob on the other side and broke another
just
rib.
To make it even, huh?
Yeah, nice and even.
Yeah, you can't do anything about a broken rib. You just got to lay there and hope it gets better. And you wrap yourself, and that's it. You're going to be in pain for a while.
And even breathing, you're gonna struggle to breathe just because it's just expanding the rib cage. So it's not fun.
Did you like that movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yes, I did. Actually, that was one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So were you a fan? It sounds like it since you were talking.
Yeah. that scene where they had Bruce from the Green Hornet, and
Yep.
and supposedly he was a braggart, and our guy was going to show him what for. You're not so tough, and I don't think you could beat Muhammad Ali. And that started the whole rift between the two of them.
Yeah.
So now, I heard Quentin Tarantino was trying to defend that scene because a lot of people didn't like that fact that, well, Bruce was better than anybody. Of course, there could never be a fight, but there actually was a fight that happened on the scene of their filming one of those shows. So he said, yeah, it actually did happen, and he didn't kick his ass, but they did spar together for a while, and so it was from a really historical event that went down. So
yeah, I heard it based on a real event. So yeah, I know there's backlash for that scene, but I think it was very well done. But for your perspective, for someone growing up in Hollywood and LA, how was like the aesthetic and that stuff? Do you think it was like accurate to like growing up?
Oh yeah, they got it pretty together. I mean, I saw them. They were trying to reproduce. What was that club called? There was a couple of different clubs that they did that they did really good in redoing the outside of it, make it look like it did back then. Hollywood Boulevard looked just like it did back then, including the Sergeant, which was a I don't know what it was. They sold everything at the Sergeant, but anyway, everything they had back then, the old restaurants. I mean, it was great. It's great to see that. Really a flashback to see that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think just the whole movie, for being almost 3 hours long, I know some people get a little antsy, they don't want to watch it, but it is definitely well worth watching it. I thought it was extremely well done.
Yeah, and of course the ending was real crazy, and it just wanted to go on and on and on. It's like,
but I really
you're a real friend. I try.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Brad Pitt's character in it, especially with the ending with the huge fight scene. I don't want to give it away for anyone who hasn't watched it yet, but the whole aesthetic, it doesn't scream too much Quentin Tarantino until you get to the end, and then you're like, that's Quentin Tarantino, all right.
Yeah. Totally unexpected. The first time I saw it, I was like, what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, it was funny. I was watching. I went to the movie theater with my brother to watch it, and he's like, again, I won't give away, but he said he's gonna go get that item, that he had out of his shed. And I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah, right. I don't think you can get that.
And then he pulled it out. And I was like, wow,
wow, he got it. No kidding. Oh wow. Talk about home protection,
I didn't see it coming. I was amazed,
Yeah, that was pretty heavy. I didn't expect that at all. And it just did not stop. It just kept on going from the beginning to the end.
Oh, and it just how much they covered in that movie too. Just we were talking about, they had Bruce Lee, the fight with Bruce Lee in there. They had Manson at that time with the studio, staying at the movie studio, the old abandoned movie studio. So they covered a lot of different aspects of that time period in the movie.
Yeah, and I was playing with John Phillips' band, The Jam, and of course John Phillips was right in the middle of all that stuff with Terry Melcher, Lou Adler, all the people that were the major players in Hollywood at the time, and they were scared shitless because they didn't know what the heck was going to happen, because people were dying left and right, and everybody was frightened that it was personal, to Hollywood or something. And so, yeah, I mean, they had security people on the property, a lot of the mansions in Beverly Hills after that. They were really scared. It really changed the scene for sure. I mean, because everybody was like pie in the sky for a while. And then you saw the reality of, hey, that long-haired guy that plays music can also kill you. So it's like, well, okay, well, that's back to reality a little bit,
Yeah, it is definitely, definitely that reality does sink in, and it's interesting like how connected Manson was in the music community at that time. I know he actually and I believe this is true again. I don't know from firsthand stuff, but I believe he even wrote a song for the Beach Boys, or he wrote a riff for the Beach Boys, and they actually
did.
wrote a song.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, he was hanging out with Dennis, and I guess he had bringing the girls along with him, and so they would party with all the girls, and he would play all his material for him. But Terry didn't particularly like it, which was the downfall of those people that happened to be living in his place. But you don't say no to Manson. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he felt like he should do something. So yeah, they did one of those songs. Forget which one it was, but I was surprised that they put that in there after all the destruction he wrote. But
yeah, that it still had released, and I think he, before everything happened, I think he was trying to get song credits for that song too, and I don't know if that actually ever happened or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened on that particular song, but I know it did get released because they talk about it all the time. I don't know.
It's infamous for, unfortunately, kind of the wrong. It has that wrong kind of vibe to it. Unfortunately, wrong kind of tone. Whatever you want to call it, just provokes some infamous kind of thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, well, that's why a lot of people do stuff like that, just to sort of attract attention because it's so sort of dark, whatever.
Yeah, and you get a little controversial with everything as well. Obviously it creates cash, so of course.
Yeah.
But getting back with you as I'm kind of wrapping up this interview, what are the plans for the Hollywood Stars for the rest of this year, 2022?
Well, we have the EP coming out, which will be the 2 songs that you've already heard and 2 others that you haven't, be a vinyl EP. And so that's coming out probably in 4 months, something like that. We're going back in the studio next month and doing the new tracks for the second EP. So for next year. So we're just sort of moving along slowly, seeing how people react to us. And if they like what they like, if they like what we're doing, we'll keep going. Hopefully people will. And if they keep downloading the stuff, there's no top 10 like it used to be, or something like that. It's just how many downloads you can get. So it's a different scene, but we try to make it happen the best we can.
Yeah, you do. Nowadays, all about the Spotify numbers and iTunes downloads and all that stuff. So, but from what obviously from chatting with you, from listening to the music, and from what other people have been saying, I really enjoy what you guys have been doing lately, and I do look forward to listening to some more new music by you guys.
Thank you, man. That's nice to hear. I appreciate it.
Of course. But Terry, I had a really great time chatting with you here on Super Cool Radio.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for making this happen. Appreciate it.
Of course, I'm glad we were able to sit down and chat, because I know we had a lot to discuss, and I'm glad we got around to pretty much everything I was kind of wanting to talk about, and
a few other things.
Movies and MMA, which I'm all about anyway.
How do we get into that?
For Terry Ray of the Hollywood Stars,
all right.
Host as always,
Thanks so
Matthew Thomas.
Thanks, everybody.
Of course, thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching and listening to Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.